I'm in Leederville at the Leederville TAFE for the National Youth Settlement Framework Workshop. It's put on by the Multicultural Youth Advocacy Network, and it's designed to assist young refugees and migrants who come into Australia to settle more effectively.
I'm Nadine Liddy and I'm the National Coordinator for Mayan Australia, which is the Multicultural Youth Advocacy Network. So this is 2-day training on the National Youth Settlement Framework. The framework is the first of its kind in Australia, so it's quite a milestone in youth settlement policy and programming. The framework is a practical and conceptual guide for supporting good practice with young people from refugee and migrant backgrounds. It has a range of practical tools, and that's what we're exploring in the day and a half or the 2-day training. So we're moving through the framework, learning about the framework, and in particular looking at what the framework means. We're all here today with people working with young people from refugee and migrant backgrounds in the education setting. So there's a couple of people from intensive English language centres. There's a few people from the settlement sector, so those who deliver sort of early on arrival support. There's a few people from the health sector and a couple of people from the broader youth sector. So a cross-section of people. Young people experience the settlement journey different to adults, and they also experience adolescence in ways that are different or distinct from Australian-born young people. So some of those factors are leaving their country behind, not having a choice in that, having to learn a new language in Australia, having to support their family in ways that they may not have done before. The refugee and migration experience puts a lot of pressure on families. They're also developing new peer relationships in a whole new culture. And in terms of the particular unique needs, they're negotiating the developmental tasks of adolescence with all those other factors to negotiate. But they're doing that without immediate family support. And many of them will carry some burden of responsibility for supporting family left behind. So there's often a focus on earning money.
So what happens with the adolescent who is then coming from their country to a new country?
They would come to Australia and receive some initial support through settlement organisations, and that support is often around accommodation, enrolling them in school or in higher education, accessing medical care or health care, depending on what that is, and also briefing them a little bit on how the employment system works in Australia.
So for an adolescent that comes and is separated from their family, are there any long-term issues?
For those who come on their own, it can be particularly challenging. Often feel a really deep sense of grief and loss, and that separation from family can also impact on mental health. But I think that group of young people are also really highly resilient. They're very keen to contribute to the Australian society. They're very keen to educate themselves and get employment and make a formal contribution to Australian society.
What would you say to the different migrant groups in Perth? How can they contribute?
What we would say to young people is, seek the support that you need. We do a whole range of sector development activities, including training with services to make sure that services are inclusive and responsive. So let's hope that part of the picture happens well, and we would say to young people to seek the support that you need and, really build on strengths. This group of young people come with a whole range of strengths, and I think it's important not to lose sight of that. And that it does get easier over time. And again, it's finding the supports that they need, whether that's peers or whether that's within services, more formal welfare or social services.
And do you think Perth is ready for a new lot of cultural input?
Yeah, I do think Perth is ready. Yeah, I think Perth is a reasonably small sector in terms of the youth and settlement sectors, but I think there's a lot of good collaboration that happens across services, which is really important to make sure that young people don't fall through the gaps.
I'm Angela Albuquerque for Undercurrent.